right. Well, hello there again, everybody. Honestly, I'm a little bit surprised that they gave me the microphone back after the last panel, but oh well, let's go. I'm Reagan Reed, and we're going to do a panel now on social media and censorship. It's going to be a lot of fun. Okay, so we have Bob Eberle. He's done some stuff with Newsmax, Right Side Broadcasting. He's pretty much done everything in the media world. And then Ivory Hecker, she works for Fox 26 and has done a lot of great work. So to start us all out, I want to get kind of a little bit in the weeds. You hear a lot about Section 230, and that's it was enacted in 1996. That was the year I was born, and the internet was so advanced back then. It hasn't changed at all. Basically, it's the guideline that gives these big tech giants some immunity for what's posted on their websites. And so the internet obviously has evolved since 1996. So I want to get from both of you, what are your thoughts on Section 230? Should we keep it? Should we get rid of it? Should we reform it? Eberle, we'll start with you.
Okay, folks, you're familiar with Section 230. If you're not, I'll give you a quick background. I was actually in graduate school when these web browsers and stuff were coming out in the mid-90s. So rather than going to class, all of a sudden I was playing on the computer. It's like, wow, you can actually see a picture and you can click on it. But what happened was, and this shows you where a law might have a good intention, but then you don't realize the consequences until later. What happened is that there was pornography, there was profanity, there was all this stuff going crazy, and some companies tried to actually cut down on that, get rid of it, and these people sued. And these court cases actually ruled in favor of the plaintiffs. And so the government said, well, how can we clean that up? We're going to put this section in place that will protect people from cleaning up things. Well, now you see what happened. Now, in the guise of getting rid of misinformation or cleaning things up, what we didn't realize is that big tech was going to be controlled by the radical left and get woke and push this agenda that we disagree with. So right now we see that 230 is actually protecting them and hurting us, hurting the conservative voice. So I'm by all means opposed to Section 230. We need to get rid of it. We need to get rid of it now. We can police what is good information, what is bad information. We can do that ourselves. We don't need big tech saying it for us.
Oh, now my take. Well, without Section 230, if a commenter posts something pornographic, which pornography is not protected by the First Amendment, then the publishing website, say Facebook, would then be able to get sued for being responsible for putting out pornography. So any sort of platform for that sort of third-party interaction would not be able to exist. So we need to figure out a way to allow that free communication without the publishing platform being responsible, and Section 230 does allow that to happen. Right-wing voices are absolutely being censored at this point. I mean, so Section 230 allows the publishing website like Facebook or Twitter to not be liable for anyone's comments, which means that, I mean, they are the governor of the comment section now, so they can get rid of whatever they don't like. So they can infringe on free speech, and it's not considered a breach of the First Amendment. And then also they can leave things up that are breaches of the First Amendment, like porn, and still not get called out for it. So basically, the commenter themselves is responsible for being adhering to the First Amendment. And honestly, I strongly believe in individual liberty and personal responsibility, and I think it should be the commenters' responsibility. Commenters should be responsible for what they post, and they are the ones who should get in trouble with the law if they're violating the First Amendment. So I think, look, I don't know how social media platforms can exist without Section 230. I totally see a role for Section 230, And we still have the free market, and I think we need to look at the free market and the fact that we still have the First Amendment, which allows for us to speak freely. If Facebook is saying it doesn't believe in free speech, we are free to go to another platform. So we can start commenting on Telegram, for instance. Right now, Telegram doesn't censor like Facebook censors, and that's why a lot of people are gravitating to Telegram or like going to Rumble instead of YouTube. My first independent report, I uploaded it on BitChute because it wouldn't exist on YouTube, would have immediately deleted my independent report. And it got over 300,000 views on BitChute. We still have platforms for free speech, and if a platform says we are going to alienate half of the audience, they are hurting their own bottom line and hampering their future, and people are going to naturally gravitate to other social media platforms. It's the individual's responsibility. If you don't like what Instagram's doing, go to another platform. It's your choice. We still have the First Amendment.
So to quote our White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki, we're going to circle back to that. So not only has the internet changed in and of itself, but the internet has pretty much revolutionized the way that we do media in general. Okay, so we've seen just over the course of my lifetime a shift from your more actual paper newspapers where they're funded by subscribers, and that's kind of the business model, how they make their money, to the age of free media, where they're being funded by, kind of clickbait headlines, how many ads revenue you can generate from that. And so I want to ask both of you, and it's a two-part question, so kind of keep it a little bit brief. How has social media changed the business model of media for better and for worse?
Where do you want to go?
We'll start with you.
How has social media changed media for better and for worse? Well, social media has been so addictive since it began. When Facebook first came out, people couldn't get off of it, and then their parents started getting on it. Now everyone's on social media, and so the news gravitated over to social media too. And right now, social media is the first place where people get their news, and then if they like the little blurb that the outlet posted on social media, they'll click the link and go to the news outlet's actual website. But prior to that, they would get it first directly from the news outlet. Now it's social media, and the issue. So that's good that a platform that's so addictive is now a place where people can get their news when otherwise they might not think to go to the news website or to turn their TV on to get news otherwise. It just comes through their feed, so that's good. But the issue is that we do have a social media monopoly of social media websites that have their own political agendas, and so they're actually messing with the algorithms, getting rid of content, news that they don't want audiences to know about, and then boosting up perhaps propaganda that they do want their audiences to buy into. So the issue with social media, I love that everyone can post on there and share with each other, but the fact that we've got a monopoly right now of basically Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, which is also Instagram, all being a part of the same political agenda is a dangerous scenario, because they are indeed aggressively censoring out information that the public deserves to know about and spinning their own narrative by allowing certain people to have a bigger voice and shutting down other voices. That's a dangerous thing, especially because a lot of the audiences don't realize it is happening, and indoctrination is happening because of that.
Yeah, for better or for worse?
A little bit of both. It's been a dramatic change. In the early 2000s, I was fortunate enough to attend several White House press briefings. I got to ask questions of White House Press Secretary Ari Fleischer back then, and you had to jump through so many hoops to become an official reporter, to have your organization be official. They asked you what your circulation was, how many full-time reporters you had, all of these things, and now you truly have the advent of the citizen journalist. Anyone can go on YouTube and make a report, but that doesn't mean it's good. It could be good. You can find folks that really cut through all the mess, the corporate nonsense that you had to deal with, and get the news straight out to people. The problem is, though, is that someone that you can trust? Can you verify their information? Are they dealing in facts? But ultimately that comes down to you, the individual, to say, hey, I trust this person. They source their information. They rely on reliable information. They follow the science. Isn't it funny how the left says they follow the science, but they don't actually follow the science? It's pretty interesting. But so you have this news available to many more people in many more ways, but that puts an added responsibility on all of us to see what is good and what isn't. And if I could follow up just on one thing that you said about the censorship, I was sitting there listening to some other speeches, and I just did a quick Google search, all right? All I did was do a Google search on situation in Afghanistan. You know, that's common, that's what's going on right now. If you do the news tab, here were the top sources that came up. It was Al Jazeera, Gallup News, New York Times, Boston Globe, BBC, Washington Post, NPR, and CNN. That is what Google is recommending you should read for situation in Afghanistan. And you can do that on topic after topic after topic. So it's not just that they are blocking certain news, but they are promoting certain news. What you see is what they want you to see.
You should be using DuckDuckGo.
There you go. Yeah, exactly. Right.
So in that same vein, I want to talk about something, and it's confirmation bias, and that is where it's human nature to seek out sources and information that agrees with your preconceived bias, and you see this on the left and on the right, and social media, I think, has exacerbated that, where you know, if it's going to feed you things that you largely agree with, and it just creates this echo chamber. And so I want to ask y'all, how do you combat in your own mind confirmation bias and get a better picture of the truth, and not just, how do you know that you're not just you know, having that confirmation bias?
Well, it's an interesting situation, and it's difficult. There was a poll I just want to bring up. Say you were in the 50s, the 40s, 50s, 60s, you know, and the son or daughter brings their boyfriend home or potential fiance. The number one question those parents would ask that son or daughter is, what religion is that person? That was the number one question they were concerned about. Now it's what political affiliation they are, because that is what dominates society so much. People get put in these bubbles and they don't see past that. They don't see that a person who is a fellow Christian can have an opposing view on a certain issue. We are so much into these little bubbles that we don't see past that. And I think it is a very dangerous thing, because we are people first. We are Americans first. We are Christians. That is what should bind us. Then we can have actual discussions on issues that divide us. So confirmation bias, just reaffirming what you've already believed, is not a good thing.
Yeah, and I think that to combat confirmation bias, you should always keep yourself in check by surrounding yourself with people of varying viewpoints. You should, as far as news, I agree with looking at news from multiple sides of the issue. So watch Fox, CNN, and Newsmax, and maybe even Al Jazeera, and just see what everyone's saying and figure out what makes sense to you. Talk with friends that you disagree with, and let them challenge you and see if your point is even making sense. And so yeah, really don't just say you believe something because that's what all your friends believe, but really understand the core of the issue. And then when I'm covering news, if I'm interviewing someone who's dealing with a particular issue and sees things one way, well, then I want to bring in someone who disagrees with that and have them challenge that in the story. And then the viewers can make up their own minds.
It is so important to have a very wide media diet, I think. So read the left sources, read the right sources, read everything. I don't think that a lot of people in here have a problem going against the mainstream opinion. and especially in this crowd. But I would encourage you all, don't be afraid to go against the mainstream right-wing position, okay? I think take everything, and if you're agreeing with everything somebody is saying, you need to look at that. And it's okay to stake out a different position if you've looked objectively at the facts, and that's where you land. So I said we would circle back to alternatives to the mainstream media. And this is something that conservatives have talked about ever since I've been involved in politics, is that, Facebook, Twitter, they're terrible, they're biased against us, we need an alternative. And that's been for years I've been hearing that. And I mean, you have the Parlers and the Gabs and the Getters, but I'm just going to be honest, just objectively speaking, for how usable they are and all that stuff, they're bad products. So they don't discriminate as much, but they're just not putting out a product. So it just blows my mind, and maybe y'all could help me understand this a little bit. On the right, we're the people of innovation and markets and all of that stuff. Why haven't we been able to put a quality product that just on the merits of the quality could rival and compete with the tech giants?
Well, that's an interesting question, because remember I said that in the mid-90s I was in graduate school when these web browsers were coming out. All of my fellow engineering students were conservatives, and we're looking at this tech, and the last thing that would have ever occurred to me is that tech would have ended up being controlled by the radical left. I mean, we were just conservative guys geeking out in engineering and computers, and this idea that we'd now be beholden to these folks that do not have America's best interests at heart just blows my mind. But what we need, and I think the best thing, the best little light at the end of the tunnel, is the fact that former President Trump was so active on Twitter, that he saw social media, he saw the power of it, he saw going through and bypassing the press. So if he gets involved in Getter, or if he gets involved in a different social media platform, that is the power that we can have, because I totally agree with you. Parler was on the verge of really breaking through, but even that interface wasn't as good as some of the features on Twitter. It was taken down when you put your servers on Amazon. You kind of pay the price because you're controlled by the radical left. You know that Trump or his supporters will not do the same thing. So I think a voice like that, with the resources like that, is our best chance to get a social media platform out there that is usable and can bypass the left and be a vehicle for all of us.
I think that when Facebook first came out, it had its issues too. It wasn't that user-friendly. These are new platforms that the larger they get, the more profits they get, the more they're able to tweak things and really make it an awesome platform. I think Getter is nice and smooth, and I like Getter so far. I need to post more on there. I'm new to Getter, but yeah, I think we got to give these platforms a chance to blossom a little bit. And this past year, they have so much, because we've seen censorship, and that is what I love about the free market. We have so much hope with free markets still. We have the liberty to switch over to a platform we don't like. If people are not getting the answers they're asking for on one platform, they're going to go elsewhere, and that's why we're seeing all of this alternative media, both social media and news media, just absolutely blossom over this past year. There's a lot of hope.
Right. One other thing is that we still have to continue to fight back against big tech, because there is a very big generational thing. You know, I spent forever teaching my mom how to use Facebook. So the last thing she's going to do is go off to a new platform after she spent so much investing in Facebook. She still can't work it, or she says some weird terms I don't even know what she's talking about, just hitting like that, and it's not working. But so the last person that's going to learn something different is someone like that. So we still have to maintain that fight against these big tech giants, because for some people that's literally the only option.
Well, something to think about. I almost wonder if maybe the next person that's going to design the conservative alternative to Facebook and Twitter is someone in this room.
Yep.
So definitely, if you're interested in that, get involved. I want to thank y'all so much for being on the panel. Really great discussion. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks.
Okay, friends, thanks so much for watching. And before you go, please hit that subscribe button, hit that bell so you'll be notified. And here's a special video just for you so you can watch even more of the 13-minute news hour. And don't forget to check out GOPUSA.com for the best in conservative news and commentary. We'll see you next time.